This is the Life Podcast with Manuel, living in full expression. Welcome to the Life Podcast with me, your host, Manuel. And in this episode, we're going to dive into something that might just make you feel a little bit uncomfortable, but in the best way possible. In our last episode, I challenged you to identify your powerful why, and I talked about how Samuel had his why to be traveling the world with his art, and how you too can create your own why. And if you did that work, you would have dug deep and found that why that makes your heart race and maybe even bring tears to your eyes. You probably felt incredible afterward, motivated, inspired, ready to take on the world. But then something happened. A few days passed, real life showed up, and you discovered something uncomfortable. Even with a powerful why, execution can still be hard. And that's exactly what we're going to be talking about in today's episode. So let me ask you something, and I want you to be brutally honest with yourself. How has your execution been since our last episode? Have you been consistently taking action towards your most important goal, or have you found yourself making excuses, procrastinating, or somehow talking yourself out of doing the thing you know you should be doing? If you're in the second category, first of all, I want you to know that you are completely normal. And second, you are in the right place, and that's what I'm going to be helping you achieve in this episode today. Because here's what most motivational content won't tell you. Having a powerful why is absolutely essential, but it's not magic. It doesn't make the work easier. It doesn't eliminate obstacles, and it definitely doesn't silence that voice in your head that seems determined to keep you exactly where you are. That voice has a name. I call it the resistance. And that resistance is what we're going to be dealing with in this episode, because understanding it, and more importantly, knowing how to handle it, is the difference between people who achieve their goals and people who have powerful whys but never seem to follow through. Now, let me tell you a little story that perfectly illustrates what I'm talking about today. Sarah and Marcus, both of them joined the exact gym on January 1st with identical goals to lose 30 pounds by summer. Now, Sarah's why was incredibly powerful, and this is what Sarah said. I want to be healthy and confident for my daughter's wedding in June. I want to walk down the aisle with her feeling proud of who I am, not hiding behind shapeless dresses and hoping no one notices me in the photos. And this is Marcus's why. His was equally strong, and this is his why. He said, I want to prove to myself that I can finish what I started for once in my life. I'm tired of being the guy who gets excited about something for 3 weeks and then gives up. I want my kids to see me as someone who follows through. Both are powerful whys. Both are emotionally connected. Both are deeply personal. But guess what happened by February 1st? Sarah was going to the gym 5 times a week, had lost 8 pounds, and was feeling stronger than she had in years. Marcus had been to the gym exactly twice since January 15th and was already talking about trying again next month when work calms down. Same gym, same goal, same type of powerful why, completely different outcomes. The question is, what made the difference? The difference wasn't motivation. They both started with incredible motivation. It wasn't their why, because both their whys were emotionally compelling. It wasn't even their circumstances. They both had busy lives, demanding jobs, and family responsibilities. So what then is the difference? The difference was how they handled what I called the resistance. And before we go on any further, I want to make sure that you understand what the resistance really is, because most people completely misunderstand this concept. Now, the resistance isn't that voice in your head that says you suck, you will never succeed, or why even bother trying. That's just regular negative self-talk. And honestly, that's pretty easy to recognize and fight against. Now, the resistance is much more sophisticated than that. The resistance doesn't come wearing a villain costume. It comes dressed as logic, reason, and self-care. Now, resistance sounds like this. You hear something like, you know what? You can start tomorrow instead. Today's just not ideal. Or you can hear something like, You don't really have enough time to do this probably today. Better to wait until you can give it full attention. Or to some other people, you would hear something like, you're not seeing results as fast as you hope. Maybe this approach isn't right for you. Or to someone else, you could hear something like, you know what? This goal might not be realistic given everything else you have going on right now. Or some other person, you could hear things like, you're tired, you're stressed, you're overwhelmed. The responsible thing to do is take care of yourself first. Do you hear how reasonable that sounds? Do you hear how caring and logical the resistance can be? That's what makes it so dangerous. It's not obviously wrong. In fact, on the surface level, it often sounds absolutely right. But here's what the resistance is really doing. It's keeping you safe. It's keeping you comfortable. It's protecting you from the possibility of failure, disappointment, or having to push beyond what feels easy and familiar. The resistance will always have a logical sounding reason why today isn't the right day to execute. There will always be something else that seems more urgent, more reasonable, more responsible to focus on instead. And here's the kicker. The stronger your why, the more sophisticated the resistance becomes, because your subconscious mind recognizes that this goal actually matters to you, which means achieving it will require you to change, to grow, to become someone you've never been before. And change, even positive ones, feels dangerous to the part of your brain that's designed to keep you alive and safe. So, what was Sarah's secret? What did Sarah do differently than Marcus? Here's Sarah's secret weapon. Sarah expected this resistance that they would show up. Most people are caught off guard when the resistance show up. They think having a powerful why means they should feel motivated all the time. They think that if they are making excuses or procrastinating, it means their why isn't strong enough or they don't really want their goal. But Sarah understood something critical. The resistance showing up doesn't mean you don't want your goal. It simply means your goal is important enough that achieving it will change you, and your brain is trying to protect you from that change, maybe because of some neural patterns from your past experiences. So, sometimes you may have had some experiences where you have failed in some things and that pattern has been created and your brain begins to remind you of those patterns. So every Sunday evening, this is what Sarah does. Sarah will sit down with a notebook and do what she calls her resistance report. She will write down every excuse, every obstacle, every logical reason her mind might create during the upcoming week to avoid going to the gym. Things like, I'm too tired after work, I don't have childcare lined up, it's raining, and I don't want to drive in bad weather. I ate badly today, so what's the point of working out? I have too much work to catch up on. I'm getting a cold and I should rest instead. So these are familiar things that Sarah pointed out. Then, this is the critical point. After writing down all this resistance, and she wrote down her pre-planned response to each one of them. For I am too tired after work, she wrote, I commit to being healthy for my daughter's wedding. Tired is temporary. Regret is forever. And I'm going to the gym for 20 minutes, even if I just walk on a treadmill at a slow pace. And for I ate badly today, she wrote, one bad eating choice doesn't cancel out the benefit of exercise. If anything, this is when I need the gym most to reset my mindset and get back on track. And for I'm getting a cold, she wrote, light exercise gradually boosts my immune system. I will go and do some gentle stretching and walking. If I feel worse, I will leave early, but I will still show up. Do you see what she did? She turned execution from a daily decision into a pre-made choice. So when Wednesday evening rolled around and her brain whispers, you are too tired for the gym today, Sarah didn't have to use willpower to argue with that voice. She didn't have to motivate herself in the moment. She just pulled out her pre-written response and followed her own instruction. But Marcus, on the other hand, tried to make the decision fresh every single day. And every single day, the resistance had new arguments, new logic, new reasons why today wasn't the right day. So when you're making your decision in the moment, the resistance has the advantage because it sounds so reasonable and you're tired and you just want to take the path of least resistance. But when you make the decision ahead of time, when you anticipate the resistance and prepare your responses, you take away its power. Now, I want to share with you one of the most powerful concepts I've ever learned about execution. I call it the 1% execution rule. And here is the rule. You don't need to be perfect. You don't need to execute at 100% every single day. You just need to execute at 1% when 100% feels impossible. So whenever 100% feels impossible for you, execute on 1% and continue to build momentum from there. And let me explain what this means. For example, you can't write for an hour. Why not write one paragraph? You can't do a full 45 minutes workout. Just do 10 push-ups. You can't make 20 sales calls. Make one. Can't work on your business for 3 hours. Work for at least 10 minutes. You can't read for 30 minutes. Read one page. The goal isn't perfect execution. The goal is unbroken execution. Because here's what happens when you follow the 1% rule. That tiny effort on your worst day builds what I call the execution muscle. It keeps the momentum alive. Most importantly, it proves to your subconscious mind that you are someone who follows through no matter what. So think about it this way. What's the difference between someone who works out for 10 minutes and someone who doesn't work out at all? Physically, there's not much difference. 10 minutes of exercise isn't going to transform your body overnight, but psychologically, it's the difference between being someone who exercises and someone who doesn't. It's the difference between being someone who keeps your commitment to themselves and someone who makes excuses. Your identity is shaped by your actions, especially your action when things get difficult. Every time you follow through, even at 1%, you're building evidence that you are the type of person who executes. You are literally rewiring your brain to see yourself as someone who follows through. And every time you don't follow through, you are building evidence for the opposite story. The person who executes at 1% for 30 days straight will always be the person who executes at 100% for 3 days and then stops. Because consistency beats intensity every single time. So before we wrap up, I want to give you a simple daily practice that will revolutionize your relationship with execution. Every evening before you go to bed, I want you to answer these 3 questions. Question number 1, ask yourself, what did I execute on today, even if it was small? Now, here is what happens. This question forces you to acknowledge your wins, no matter how tiny they were. Maybe you didn't complete your full morning routine, but you did drink that glass of water. Maybe you didn't write the full blog post, but you did write one paragraph. Maybe you didn't have the full conversation with that potential client, but you did send that email. So celebrating small wins builds momentum and trains your brain to notice progress instead of focusing only on what you didn't do. And here's question number 2. What resistance showed up and how did I handle it? Now, this is what this question is going to help you to do. This question is going to help you to become aware of the resistance pattern so you can prepare for them tomorrow, the next day, the day after. Maybe you notice that you always want to skip your evening routine when you have a stressful day at work. Maybe you realize that you tend to make excuses on Wednesdays because that's your longest work day. The patterns, you can plan for them. The third question is, what's my 1% action for tomorrow if everything goes wrong? And this is what this question is going to help you to do. This question is your insurance policy. It's your pre-planned response to the resistance. Tomorrow might bring unexpected challenges. You might feel tired or overwhelmed. You might have legitimate obstacles that might come up. But if you have already decided on your 1% action, which is the absolute minimum you're committed to doing no matter what, then you don't have to rely on motivation or willpower in the moment. So these 3 questions take less than 5 minutes to answer, but they create a feedback loop that strengthens your execution muscle every single day. Here's what I want you to do over the next 24 hours. First, I want you to identify the biggest resistance you've encountered since our last episode or since the beginning of this month. What excuses has your mind been making? What logical reasons has it been giving you to avoid taking action on your most important goal? Second, I want you to write out your pre-planned response to that resistance. What are you going to tell yourself the next time that the excuse shows up? Make it specific, make it compelling, make it something you can read and immediately act on. And third, I want you to take your 1% action towards your most important goal. Not tomorrow, not when you feel more motivated. I mean today, right after you finished listening to this episode. And fourth, I want you to celebrate your action, no matter how small it was, because every time you execute when you don't feel like it, you are becoming someone who follows through and you are creating an identity for yourself. And that's a different category of human being entirely. Okay, here's the truth, and I want you to listen carefully. The resistance will show up again tomorrow and the day after that, and probably for the rest of your life. But the good news is that now you are ready for it. You know what it sounds like. You know how it operates, and you have tools to handle it. So the difference between people who achieve their goals and people who don't isn't that successful people don't experience resistance. Of course they do. But it's that they've learned to execute anyway. So your why is still your fear. Don't forget that. But now you also have the tools to keep moving forward even when that feels like it's running low. Remember this. You don't need perfect execution. You just need unbroken execution. 1% is definitely better than 0%. And every time you follow through when you don't feel like it, you are building the identity of someone who lives in full expression. So your month execution continues tomorrow, right after this episode. The resistance will be there, but so will you. And to your unstoppable execution until our next episode, always remember to keep living in full expression.